So the astrology of the week of 11 January 2021 through 17 January 2021 is interesting. It includes the first new moon since Saturn and Jupiter entered Aquarius in mid to late December. And so it's kind of like the first initiation of our new reality, of our new Aquarian reality. But there's this tonality of frustration because the Saturn-Mars square really dominates the energy this week. Okay, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you made it. It's nice to be here and nice to be talking about astrology as always, my favorite thing to do. And last week, wow, the explosive events that we saw in the American political landscape, a dramatic finish to Mars's time in Aries, right in that anaretic degree. And now Mars then has shifted into Taurus and is still applying to Saturn to complete that square to Saturn. And so there's just a tension in the air. I think we can all feel it. That tension defines this week, absolutely. But I think underlying it is that when we have a shift so dramatic, like the one we've just gone through with Saturn and Jupiter in the same week entering Aquarius, it's a big change. And big changes are sometimes hard to process. Change can be difficult. It's a difficult thing to integrate. And our response to change can often be dramatic. We sort of hold on. And I think that might be the theme of the Saturn-Mars moment. It's wanting to hold on. Remember, these are fixed signs. And so there's this real sense of holding on to that old world, to that old way of living. That's just the overarching energetic sort of theme that I want to postulate here or consider. So this first aspect here happens on Monday, about 6 in the evening here in Central Europe. We have Mercury and Jupiter coming together right in that 6th degree of Aquarius, so 5 degrees Aquarius, in Mercury's Egyptian term. So Mercury is quite strong here, and with ruler Saturn being co-present very closely to this conjunction. And so the two main rulers of Aquarius get to really extract from Jupiter that abundance, that good tidings, that joy, that hope. So it's a very auspicious conjunction. This early part of the week, I think, is a very nice energy for your Mercury in Aquarius modalities, which can be things like we've talked about, ancient knowledge, asserting or quoting texts from before, new understandings about tradition, and then sort of implementing or trying those new ways of seeing on and applying them in our current reality. And so often when Mercury and Jupiter mix, there's kind of a tension. There's an inability to integrate the two. Jupiter wants this higher level wisdom, wants to see the forest through the trees, and Mercury wants to focus on the bark. And so how do you negotiate? That's the beauty of this aspect here on Monday, is that Mercury and Jupiter mix and combine so well, and so you get this flow. It's how we actually learn. We get an experience, we get into the details, we read the fine print, and then we bring it back out to big picture planning and strategy. And so there's this flow that goes in between the two. And that's why you think about in organizations, you might think about like a corporation. Saturn's right here in this mix. You hire people with different skill sets. So you hire your programmers, you hire your analysts, but you also then hire your strategists and your consultants that can come in, your branding people, to give you this kind of larger scale advantage to your operation, this larger scale vision. So here, Monday, right in the evening here, Central Europe, this is really flowing together nice. You might want to think about how you can review your short-term to-do list against your long-term lists, or you might just have epiphanies here. It's a beautiful aspect. I love this to start the week. It's again, some of the best Aquarian energy I think we're going to get during the whole of this Saturn and Aquarius transit, because you have those two rulers, Mercury and Saturn. They're close together in Mercury's term with Jupiter, the benefic, great daytime benefic Jupiter. I'm trying to lean in here, and the world is crazy, it's changing, but we're seeing some Aquarian leaps ahead. The cryptocurrency space has exploded. A lot of people are doing well there. There's a lot emerging now. And the digital space, the communication we're able to do with everybody simultaneously. These features of the Aquarian moment have great support right now. And this transit right here on Monday is exemplar. I love Jupiter-Mercury combinations for teaching. I think this is a beautiful way to embrace our Mercury and Jupiter coming together, is that we can teach, right? Teachers are very good at merging details to show a bigger point, right? Teachers write syllabi. This could even be a moment in the afternoon. Maybe someone comes to you or needs your expertise, or there's an opportunity for you to explain something. I just think you might find during this transit something will like click in, like I said, and make sense about these particular struggles that you've had, being mired in details, how that now can serve you and serve the people in your life. So I'm going to fast forward here to Wednesday morning, 6 a.m. in Central Europe, very early. We get the new moon in Capricorn. Sometimes with full moons and new moons, I mean, they're both like the beat of reality, but the new moon has a extra sense or an extra feeling of a beginning. This new moon is all about Saturn. It's a big dose of Saturn, maybe the biggest dose that we've had in a while. I know we get tired of Saturn, but it's here in Capricorn, Saturn's night sex domicile. It's in the Egyptian term of Saturn. And so there's this double rulership. The exaltation ruler Mars is in Taurus, so we like that trine. This configuration has the Mars-Saturn square very tightly applying here. So it's within 4 minutes of applying this Mars-Saturn square. And so this energetic is injected into this new moon energy, and it will be here for this 2-week cycle. The tensions we've seen in America and globally are here and are going to be entrained into this new moon and sort of carried with it. Saturn's ability in Aquarius to really subdue Mars and the martial energy. If you look at this moment in America, it was right when Mars was in the anaretic degree of Aries. And as soon as it moved into Taurus, the explosive energy of that moment there at the Capitol shifted, and it now became a kind of lockdown. I just saw today that participants in that moment have now been apprehended. And so now Saturn has come into play, and that is the government, that's the authority, order, the new chief in town. We've seen it with some of the cleaning up of the social media space in terms of the participants being allowed to access that space. Everything about our reality is going to get a heavy dose of Saturn here, and I think this week is when we're going to keep seeing it. You will see this kind of implementation phase coming, and there'll be frustration because the Mars will be acted upon by Saturn. Remember, Saturn's earlier in zodiacal order, acting upon Mars and Taurus. So you might feel frustrated, and certainly people that are suffering consequences for their actions are frustrated, but you might be suffering consequences of your own actions. You might think that you're blocked or there's things that are stagnant, and that you're not really able to maneuver. We're in winter. I know where I am, it's dreary, it's cold, it's rainy. Some days are just days you have to ride in. Though Saturn rules the moon in Aquarius, it's making no aspect to Capricorn. And it's one of the 3 planets we have that rules signs that make no aspect, where there's an aversion between the 2 signs it rules. And it's important, I think, in how we delineate the meaning of those signs and the nature of the planet. You think about Saturn as a border, as a boundary, and as a structure. It's an isolation, right? And so by its nature, Saturn is cutting us off from other things in our lives. And so it makes complete sense that you would have Saturn ruling 2 houses that can't see each other. That's the nature of its signification. Saturn in Aquarius is being new structure, new boundary, new order, and the implementation of that. Whereas Saturn in Capricorn can sometimes be a destructive quality, where we destroy things, we let go of things that already exist, and they get eliminated. That's why Aquarius is a day sex sign. At daytime we go out and work, we go into the world and do things. There's this sometimes dissonance between our justifications for new implementation, right? We have to build a rationale for why we take the actions we take at an individual level and then at a collective level. And often those rationales are cherry-picked, right? We have to go back and say, this is how I'm going to choose to see the past, and then construct a justification. And there can be kind of a dark space, a shadow or a blind spot with really any action we take. But I think particularly with governments, they like to create narratives that aren't always the full picture. I come from a school when I was training as a really young scholar in high school. We studied Foucault, we studied Derrida, we studied the French post-structuralists, and I loved it. It's a huge influence on me. There's this notion that any regime of knowledge or regime of truth, which is perfect for Aquarius, right? It's a regime of knowledge. By its nature, marginalizes and excludes discourse. It has to build its reality. And that's why I think Saturn rules 2 signs that are in aversion. It has to marginalize. When you elevate a regime of truth, you automatically exclude unacceptable discourse that doesn't serve that new rule set. We have a new moon, but we have this new rule set that might be exclusionary in some way, a certain discourse. So just think about that in your own life. The way I like to apply this personally is like, what am I overlooking? 1, and 2, what is the story I tell myself to justify the choices I make every day? So that's how I like to focus on it, this new moon, on myself. What am I hiding? What part of my history needs to be excavated and examined and reintegrated? So this is the work of this new moon. And the risk is that we don't do that. And so that the new rules that are implemented then eventually crumble on themselves because they haven't addressed these sort of underlying realities, or they haven't incorporated a plurality of truth so that they can be functional. Then a mere 6 hours later, Mars Saturn completes. The thing I want to say about this is it's the last Mars Saturn square this cycle. There's been 3 of them with that long Mars retrograde in Aries. One way to look at this transit is just to breathe a sigh of relief. You know, we've done it. We've been through a very dynamically difficult transit between the 2 traditional malefic planets. This sign-based square doesn't end, I believe, until I think the 4th of March. It will complete. Mars will enter Gemini. So we're going to deal with the lingering energy, but the climax happened here very early. I think it will be processing what went on. It will be cleaning up that explosive kind of tear in the body politic and in the media space. That will have to be stitched back together somehow. And there will have to be kind of a reconstructed sense of identity in the wake of those events. And so I look for, government to come in and help restructure that, combined with the media. Just that the social media environment, I think, is heavily changing, not only with people choosing to re-engage or engage differently. I'm seeing it all over my Twitter. A lot of people are going behind paywalls, like on Patreon. Others are just getting off social media altogether. And so the real wide open world that we've had for the last few years, really from about 2012, 2013, even into maybe 2014, 15, 16, where this explosion of discourse and attention on these very open platforms, that's now changing, and there'll be a lot more restriction. Saturn, Mercury, and Aquarius. And so just get used to it. Get used to how you want to interface. You might need to find information in other places. There's a new order in terms of how information flows. And so I would say your favorite writers, people that are moving their publications off of the main nodes of information, the main networks, you might need to seek them out. You may need to join someone's Patreon to get their writings. You may need to find their website and read their blog posts or read their essays. I think now when we go directly to individuals, it can really boost and benefit those individuals in terms of the remuneration. The energetic exchange is more direct. The new information reality that we're entering into, it's one of the better sides of it. Mars is anger. Mars is lashing out. And I would encourage you to try to mitigate that. There's 2 big risks. One is that we physically lash out. So if you have the desire to kind of hit things, run too fast, or maybe slam down a cup of coffee, or all the little ways that we can sometimes act out through our physical bodies, really try to limit that, mitigate that, and not engage in that. Because I think you might, cut yourself or injury, physical exertion to express frustration. There's risk. There's risk with Mars and Taurus. The other side of it, though, is giving yourself an ability to express the frustration, whether that's through trusted friends, Taurus, Mars, Venus. That's a relational sign. So maybe you can find people just to express frustration. I love that. Just saying, look, man, I'm so frustrated. And telling someone this is how I feel, even if it's like 1 or 2 sentences, just to release the energy. So on Wednesday here, right about 11 in the evening in Central Europe, same day. Wednesday's the big day this week. The moon coming into Aquarius and being enclosed between these malefic rays again. Remember, I talked about it last week. That was actually right after that big climax that we had of events, and a lot of people felt that in the wake of it. The Twitter space. I saw these tweets, people were saying like, I was starting 2021 with my digital detox and my new information diet, and that is totally gone because of those events. People were just locked to their Twitter, reloading to get the latest images. I want to stay with this theme of information and its ability to invade our container of consciousness and really rile us up to where we're depleted. This to me is the risk now that Aquarius with Saturn there, every time the moon is enclosed between malefic rays, particularly these oppositions and squares, which can be most harmful, more than ever. This is pertinent because of how everybody's been online since the changes around the crisis in last March, where everybody was at home and then forced to be online way more than we've ever been. And just how pernicious and insidious this kind of access to your nervous system, that these information delivery systems have. And so I want to encourage you with this transit. My recommendation is, and it's not very long, I mean, it's really just a whisper of an hour or so. Look to rest, look to disconnect. Malefic enclosures with the moon, one of my favorite suggestions, digital detox. Turn the phone off, turn the laptop off, lay down, take a nap, go for a walk. I love this too as a way to get into the Aquarian energy and how to make it work for you. Remember, all of these tools came into the cell phone, right? The phone, the watch, the timer, the camera. We're coming into an age where we have to really take a look, is that serving us? Having this one device that does everything, is that serving us? Or do we need to get a mechanical watch? Do we need to get a camera that's disconnected, where we can carry around without being connected? Information flow, treat it with the great responsibility that it needs to be treated, the gravity that it holds. That's the Saturn and Aquarius. This is the real stuff. I remember there was people talking about how the phone is the most important drug, the most addictive drug there is. You know, become less addicted to it during this whole of this Aquarian moment. It's very much a way to heal and to deal with and manage the intensity of that energy. And that new moon in Aquarius on the 11th, all of that pile up there, that's also a time I'm going to be looking to do some digital detox. I don't want to be as vulnerable to the information flow. And remember, Mercury goes backwards. Mercury retrogrades during that pile up, that new moon. Mercury retrogrades are also a wonderful time to digital detox and let go in that way. Wednesday night, just be very, very careful. Maybe turn off, go to sleep, take a nap, turn off the television, turn off the TV. The other thing is with Mars, any kind of movement practice that doesn't allow you to have a cell phone. This is why I used to love in the old world. I feel like an old guy, but we're talking about just 18 months ago. In the old world, I used to love yoga studios. I would go to my studio and had all these friends in the yoga community. The phone was in the cubby. Turn my phone off, leave it in the cubby. It was just me and my body and my heart and my mind and the community, and we would do asana together. Anything you can do like that, even if you're alone, is wonderful. So meditation, I don't use my phone. It's not what meditation is. You put the intention on the body and the breath, not the phone. So get into the physical environment as a way to mitigate this sort of digital addiction that's really been foisted upon us by genius tech companies that know how to get into our minds. We have to protect back, and that's one way to do it. Now, real active stuff maybe you don't want to do because this is such a difficult thing. I'd say stuff that's less likely to hurt your body, nothing high risk, just restful movement, maybe some basic stretching or something. But the key is here, turning the phone off. That's my rant. I don't mean to be so negative about it. Look, I love the technology too. It's wondrous. It's how we balance, how we ensure that we're protected before we engage. And this is the last transit of the week. We've now finally entered my transit of the week, my energy of the week. This is what I'm encouraging folks to enjoy. It's that Pisces moon. The evening of the 15th, so it's Friday here, the moon enters Pisces. Moon will now not be making a square to Mars and won't be co-present with Saturn. So already it's an upgrade. The moon's waxing here. We start thinking about spring. We start thinking about later this year. We can start moving ahead and initiating things. Remember, Pisces plays a big role this year. Jupiter comes to Pisces in May. This is like a preliminary moment where we can start growing and building, slowly into what May and June, even a little bit of July, may be for you. You might even want to peek ahead here with this Pisces moon. What are you trying to grow? What do you want to come to fruition in June or July? This is a good time to maybe consider, at least thinking about it. I think about the Pisces archetype here too. It's worth considering that a little bit. It's water, it's fertility, it's expansive water, it's the Jupiterian side of water. Remember, water binds. Water cleanses. Water is life. It's necessary for life, and it stays on things. If it rains, it takes a while for it to dry. My hair, it takes a while for it to dry. So water, it saturates, and it's this connective force. It's everywhere. Most of the earth is made up of water. There's water in the air. There's water in the body. This moon here, the moon is also wet and fertile. I think we can think about what we're planning and what we want to bring the healing waters to. Everything this week is Capricorn, Aquarius, and Saturn. This is a time when we can get a little bit free of that. Remember, Pisces is an aversion to Aquarius, so it's not seeing that heavy duty energy, that gravity of Saturn and Aquarius and everything that's wrapped up into that. Go see something, you know, new, maybe get around water if there's a lake or a stream or even just a little rivulet or something in your neighborhood. Get a little bit out into the water. Thing about water, bodies of water, there's always birds and animals near them. And Pisces in the modern system, it's that interconnected oneness of everything. Bring it into the traditional model when we think about water as the same thing. It's everywhere and it connects us, right? We're all water. A week that has a lot to like about it, with some new beginnings. Saturn is still dominant, but that's going to be the theme for the next couple of years. So it's good to just love your Saturn. And that Jupiter-Mercury really gives us a nice opportunity to work with Aquarius. So I'm really optimistic about that part of the week. And then this Pisces Moon. Let's get a tarot reading. Let's see if we can get some other symbols. Yeah, you know, this week I've been, in the readings I've been doing, some really cool tarot readings, you know, and I feel the power of the tarot. It really speaks to you. You know, there's times pulling a few cards and like the same card comes up in a similar position, and tarot can grab you. I mean, the cartomancy can grab you. The cards will really, they come at you and they say, no, look at this. This is what you need to look at. And I think about, even on these videos, the last couple, I think the Hangman came up a few times. I feel like that's a big part of the energy we're in. I feel like the cards have been grabbing me and grabbing my viewers through that, those recent repetitions. So let's see what we get. First card. All right, Four of Hearts, great. Love this card. Plateau, the Plateau card. This is a card very much about, you know, the moon in Cancer, the moon in domicile there in that last decade of Cancer. Great place for the moon, you know, and I think about home here as we settle, or even they talk about emotions as we get riled up, or even during arousal, there's like a plateau that happens where you get riled up and then you settle in on a certain pleasurable zone, or even the emotional state. If we kind of plateau at an emotion where it's not so haywire, often the moon can be that fluctuation emotionally. It moves so quickly in the sky. I think a destabilized lunar energy can sometimes be the ups and downs, but when we plateau, it's nice to settle in, and it's the home, the Cancer, the moon as home. Even moon as mother and nurture. I mean, in the womb at its best, you're just encased in that safety. The fluids that gets connected right into the baby through the umbilical cord, of a levelness that comes with the safety of that environment. And that's what I think, when our moon is functioning at its best, we have a safe, comfortable spot to feel, to let the emotions to fully experience emotional states as they're designed to be, but in a container that's solid and stable. So we're not, it's not spilling out in a way that can damage or harm. So I love this for this card because it tells me that in this position, if we look back at last week, I know it's been really tough for a lot of folks, the ups and downs and the new Aquarian energy, still adjusting to that. So find your home this week, find it. Find your home in your body, try to stabilize your emotions. I think this fits with the digital detox as well. Aquarius is an air sign. This is a night sect Earth, a water sign, Cancer. So it's initiating the new kind of night energies. And I think the turning off the phone and then focusing back on your own water, right? The water's in our bodies, what is it, 60%? Instead of focusing our attention on this water, air, let's bring it into the body. I encourage you this week, try it for like 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Turn the phone off when you wanted to have it on. All right. Second card. And I don't mean to be ranting about that, I really don't. I just feel strongly about it for the health. I think it can be really healthy to learn to modulate our intake. And so I hope I don't come off as kind of overzealous or anything like that. I just feel strongly for my own health, really, talking to myself here. In my experience, it's been essential to learn to modulate that. And I struggle with it, is the truth. I'm not holier than thou at all. I mean, I struggle with it every day. I wish I had the hours back of that idle time that I spent on the internet. And so I'm speaking more, I'm talking to me, and I'm impassioned because of my own struggles with it. All right, let's get the second card. All right, the Devil. There we go, that good old devil. We love the devil, right? That old devil. The devil, we are the devil. The devil lives inside of us. And this actually flows just with what I was just talking about. That inner compulsion to be satisfied with that next hit of dopamine, that next physical pleasure. That's that devil we all have. And I love the devil card because it's the chained couple. They're in chains, right? What's chaining them? This is Capricorn. This is the night sect, cardinal sign, ruled by Venus, ruled by the moon, ruled by Mars, by triplicity, and then ruled by Saturn, the imprisonment. So it's like imprisoning those very tactile, physical, and pleasure-oriented planets have to then kind of be encased in the Saturnian mold and fold. So yeah, I mean, the Capricorn new moon happens this week. This is the future card. And so I'm going to go back to what is under the surface, what is hidden in your unconscious. Maybe some of that's going to come up. This is that hidden, excluded discourse that I was referring to earlier. You know, Saturn and Aquarius can't see Capricorn, and so it excludes parts of our history, parts of our memories even are buried potentially. They live in the body. That's the moon, right? That rules Cancer. It has to be released and broken up, and it can be really difficult. Sometimes we want to deny and separate, and we bury things as a survival tool. We bury it in the unconscious. You know, just understanding that we don't have the full picture very often is a way to work with this energy. That simple acknowledgement actually opens up a whole world, gives space for a whole world. Just saying, I don't know. My beliefs are not the end-all be-all, and there's things I carry deeper in me that are living there, they're festering, and they're going to emerge. I will see them in the outside world and then have an opportunity to heal. But I have to hold my knowing about reality with a big asterisk. And that asterisk says, deep down in the recesses of my consciousness are things that are causative, that I'm unaware of, and that are going to probably show themselves eventually. So just stay open. It's just the one thing I'll leave you. Open to not knowing, open to there being things we're unaware of, recognizing we may have a blind spot. That energy will serve you this week. All right. As always, thank you for being here. It's such an honor to do this. It's an honor. It's a privilege. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be talking to you. Thanks for listening. And as always, you can book readings with me, schedule an astrology reading or a tarot reading, sjanderson144.com. Click here to schedule a reading right at the top. I have gift certificates now. And yeah, take care this week. Be kind, be generous, and I will talk to you very, very soon with that new moon and Capricorn video.